Hello and welcome back. My name is Dr. Christopher Gennari. This is Great Big History Podcast. And in this episode, we do Indian politics in the later classical age. So our big empire that pops up is the Mauryans. Mauryan. The Mauryan Empire. From 321 BC to 185 AD. So this is a 400-year-old empire. It's pretty successful. It is the third of the big ones. Rome and Han China are contemporaries. In fact, Qin China is a contemporary as well. So the early Chinese dynasties, the Roman Empire are contemporaries with the Mauryan Empire. But that 320 is also an indication of what time period this is, and that means Alexander. Whenever you see the 320s, it's Alexander is doing crazy stuff somewhere in the world. And what he does is he ends up in India. Having conquered the Persian Empire, he goes to Afghanistan. From Afghanistan, they hit the Indus River, they come over the Hindu Kush, and they enter India, and they get swept up into Indian politics. So Alexander conquers India, but he doesn't conquer India so much as allies with certain Indian princes against other Indian princes and defeats the enemy Indian princes to create some kind of peace that he is technically the ally in chief of. So it's complicated. What he discovers, though, is that there's a bigger map of the world. That there's the Ganges River. Because he gets there and he goes, oh, the end of the world. And the Indians are like, why is your map so weird? And they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, you're missing the entire Ganges and everything to the east. And most of the stuff to the south. Though even ours kind of peter out after a while. And Alexander's like, really? I didn't know. There's a whole east? That's awesome. There's a Ganges. Is it rich? And like, oh, there's an entire empire there. Just waiting for somebody to beat it up. And he's like, whoa, I'm going to do that. And so he turns to his Greeks and says, hey, guys, I know we've been walking for 10 years and we've walked 12,000 miles, but how about another 10 years? And they said, nope, we're done. I'm not going to Bengal. It's over. And they had a sit-down strike. And basically Alexander had to leave. He had to go back. His army was done. They're like, we conquered India. I'm at the end of my map. I want to go home. And so Alexander returns home. But what do you do with India? Well, the Greeks don't want to stay. They want to go home back to Greece. India is weird. India is big. It's also tropic. There's no seasons. There's the wet season and the dry season. It's a completely alien world to what the Greeks knew, and they want to go home. So he would have left it to a Macedonian. They don't want it. He would have left it then to a Greek, I suppose, and they don't want it. So he has to find somebody. And this is where Sandragupta comes in. Sandragupta Maurya. Now, there's a bunch of different stories about who Sandragupta is, and I like the one where he's like Alexander's homeboy. So Alexander's in his 30s, early 30s, late 20s, early 30s at this point, and Sandragupta's like 18, 19, and he's like, hey, Alex, I'm young, you're young, we're like homeboys, and Alex goes to Sandragupta and says, I need somebody to be in charge of India while I'm gone, but I need to be able to trust him. And Sandragupta says, I'm totally that guy. I'm totally that man for you. I'm your man. I'm your man in India. And Alexander's like, great, no problems. All right, we're going to leave. And Sandragupta says, well, before you leave, can you leave me some of that Greek technology that helped you destroy cities and lay siege to Indian capitals, and so that I can, in case there's a problem, win and keep your empire together? And Alexander says, sure, I'm not conquering the world anymore. I don't need it. You could have it. That's great. See ya. I'm out. Now, here's the thing about the Mauryans. The Mauryans are going to be the exception to that rule about foreign conquest. Remember, I have India, India breaks up into littler pieces, and then a foreigner comes in. Well, the foreigner is Alexander, so we have one India again. But here's the thing. He leaves, and so what should happen is it breaks up and all that. And then a foreigner invades. Well, that's going to be the Mauryans. But the Mauryans aren't foreigners. They're Indians. But they're going to use foreign technology to conquer India. To conquer the Ganges and conquer India, the peninsula to the south. So they are the exception to the rule that proves the rule. They still needed foreign technology to do it, but they are Indians. So Chandragupta takes over as a governor. Alexander goes back. He dies of probably malaria in Babylon. His empire breaks up into 3 parts as different generals start fighting with each other. And Chandragupta is there 2,000, 3,000 miles away going, hey, guys, anybody in charge? Anyone want to tell me what to do? Anybody? No. And there's a moment where Seleucus comes east and goes like, dude, this is so far away. I can't do this all the time. I can't visit. How about you just give me 500 elephants and you can run India? And Chandragupta says, yeah, I got plenty of elephants. You could have, well, 500? Sure, I got 500. Go have fun. Seleucus goes back west with his 500 elephants, wins a major battle with those 500 elephants to keep his kingdom based at Antioch and to keep the Alexander's empire divided. Chandragupta then takes his Greek technology and says, well, if I'm here, I might as well go into business for myself. And so he starts conquering Indian kingdoms with that Greek technology. And he conquers a lot. His son takes over and he wants to be like dad. We've seen this before. So he is a conqueror. Dad was a conqueror. So the son is a conqueror. The grandson says, I want to be like dad and grandpa. And so the grandson is this guy, Ashoka. And he wants to be like dad and grandpa. So he's going to attack cities and conquer things. And what happens is he attacks a city called Orissa, Orissa. And the city is overcome and sacked. Now, a sack is a terrible thing to happen to a city. The men are murdered, women are raped, children are thrown off of the walls. Everything that's worth any money is stolen. Things are burned down. It is a terrible thing. We use a simple word, but it is like what happens to Sodom and Gomorrah. It is the wrath of God coming on a city and the poor people who live there. It is the Battle of Berlin. It's just terribleness. When you see the word sack, it is the utter destruction of the place and the people within it. And Ashoka looks at this and says, no, I can't do this. This is terrible. I don't want to do this. And so he wants to be a different kind of king. And what he does is use Buddhism. Buddhism is sitting around. People are worshiping it. You know, it's an elite kind of thing. But he says, I'm going to be Buddhist. I'm going to bring Buddhist philosophy into my legitimacy. I am not going to be a conquering king. I am going to make people's lives better. I am going to value people's happiness over their destruction. And that changes the nature of political legitimacy. Notice, everybody who comes after Ashoka has to be a Buddhist prince. They have to uphold that ideas of Buddhism to help people. And the idea is, how do I make people's lives better? How do I get them happiness? And the answer he comes up with is, we help them make more money. We help their lives get better. Well, how can I do that? I could just hand them money, but there's too many people and not enough money. It would be too small. And the answer is education. Education has always been the way to improve people's lives, if not directly, generationally. And so, who are the smartest people hanging around? Buddhist monks. So he goes to the Buddhist monks and goes, all right, Buddhist monks, I'm going to give you a ton of money. But you have to teach the people. And the Buddhist monks, who, if they're anything like modern professors, love extra money, go, wait, I get to tell people stuff that I know about, and you're going to pay me a lot of money? And Ashoka says, yeah, that's the deal. You have to do it, though. And they're like, deal, shake hands on it. And so Buddhism spreads to the educated classes because it becomes from the government to the monks, from the monks to the people. And so it becomes this lingua franca, this way of improving people's lives through education. Not just Buddhism, but education in general, of which Buddhism is part of that. Remember, philosophy is science in the ancient world, right? There's not the math to have modern science. So philosophy is how the world works. What are the rules of society? How do people deal with each other? What are people like? Those are the big questions of philosophy. So teaching philosophy may sound like silly, but it's actually the equivalent of teaching science and humanities today. And so that was the level of education. And you had to be able to read and you had to be able to write, because this is a literate language, literate religion. And so what happens is it becomes exported. As merchants leave India and go to Central Asia, even to China, they take Buddhism with them as this value of happiness, of minimizing your misery. And remember, people's lives suck. Their subsistence, they're poor for the most part. There's the 2% that are wealthy and the 98% that are poor. And so here's this thing that comes to them and says, we're going to teach you how to make a better life for yourself, how to be happier with yourself, how to achieve your ideas and your goals for yourself. And people love it. And so it changes the nature of government. Government has to care about the livelihoods of their people. In India, anyway, not in other places, but no longer. Notice we've changed. We went from building walls to laws in Babylon to democracies and republics in Rome, and representing what the people want in Greece and Rome. And now we're an education philosopher king. We are Plato's philosopher king. That their goal is to make people's lives better through education. Everybody who comes after Ashoka has to do that. And so it increases people's happiness. And through that, generationally, because they increase their education, increases wealth as well. And India will be, despite having lots of poverty, will also have a high concentration of wealth as well. And this gets exported, and Buddhism becomes what is essentially the largest religion in the world, because what we call Zen and Shin, all of these Asiatic religions are in some way, shape, or form Buddhist, that are going to go through China to Southeast Asia to Japan. So we're talking billions of people will take this on as a philosophy. So in our next episodes, we'll start talking about China, and we'll start doing the same thing. We'll start with geography, and we'll go to politics, and we'll go to philosophy, and then we'll go to history, historical events. So thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.